Hey, what's up guys? So in this video I'm going to show you how you can create this leather texture inside Affinity Photo. Now I'm not going to use any kind of external images. I'm going to create it from scratch. So if you are interested in that, let's get started. So guys, here inside Affinity Photo I'm just going to create a new document. The size doesn't matter, but I'm just going to create it in 2000 by 2000 pixels and 300 dpi because I might want to use it for print. Then I'm just going to press create. The first thing that we need to do is to create new layer. In the layers panel, either we can create a new pixel layer, but that's not what we want. We need a new fill layer. So for that purpose we are going to go to the layer at the top and choose this option, new fill layer. In this fill I'm just going to keep it as white because it does not matter. Then in the layers panel I'm going to select that layer, that fill layer, right click it and then choose rasterize and trim. Don't choose rasterize, use rasterize and trim because the filters that we are going to apply are going to work best if we choose this option. Okay, now that we have rasterized it and trimmed it, the next thing that we need to do is apply a filter. So I'm going to go to the filters, choose colors, and then go to this option Voronoi or Voroni, whatever you want to call it. It gives you this kind of like I don't know what this effect really is called, but this is kind of like a divided style design that you get. So you can choose the cell size according to your likeness, depending upon how much size you want for your texture. So let me just keep it around, I think it would work. I think that looks fine. In the line width, it really depends upon you what kind of line width you want. So you can make it like that, but I think that would look horrible. So I'm just going to make it slightly somewhat like this. That looks fine. Then I'm just going to simply apply it. The next step is to create another layer, actually another fill layer. So I'm going to go to the layer, choose this option, new fill layer, and again apply the same effect, but before that I need to rasterize and trim it. So I'm just going to right click, rasterize and trim. Now before I apply the filter again, I need to decrease its opacity as well. So in the layers panel I'm just going to decrease it, let's say just make it 50%, like that. So in this new layer we are going to apply the same filter again. So colors, Pronoi, and it has selected the same values as we have previously just applied. So I'm just going to slightly modify it. I'm going to keep the length width the same, but change the cell size to be slightly different. Let's just make it 52, like that, and it has given me the slight offset to that texture that we wanted to create. And I'm just going to simply apply it. Now we are going to select both of these layers and then go to the layer, choose this option merge selected. Okay guys, now that we have both layers merged together into a single layer, let's just apply another filter. So I'm just going to zoom into 100% so that I can clearly see the effect of that filter. So the filter is noise, and I'm going to apply this filter, add noise. Now it totally depends upon you how much intensity do you want. So I'm just going to make it, I think, somewhat like that, somewhat 70%, 78, something like that would fine. And in this option you need to choose uniform as a type of noise, and you should have this option checked as monochrome. We do not want any kind of colored noise here. And then I'm just simply going to press apply. Alright, now that we have our noise filter applied, it's time to export this image. So I'm going to go to file, choose this option export, and then I'm going to export it as a PNG or JPEG image. It does not matter. So I'm just quickly press export. So in the next step I'm going to create another fill layer. So I'm going to go to the layer, new fill layer, and this time instead of white I'm going to choose somewhat kind of like a gray color, dark gray color. So between 25 and 30 would work fine. I think 26 would look better. Now we need to again rasterize and trim it, and then apply a filter. The filter that we are looking for is this filter lightning or lighting. Actually it's lighting, not lightning. So anyway, so the filter works best, and this effects works best if we bring this light coming from a corner, somewhat like here. It does not matter which corner, but it should be coming from a corner. So somewhat like that here, maybe bring it here, and then just adjust its position as you see fit. And now I'm just going to zoom in a bit by pressing Ctrl and the scroll mouse button, and I'm just going to make sure that at the top I see this as 100%. And then I'm just going to, it does not have to be 100%, it can be 101, 9, 10. Make sure it does not go beyond 150 or 120. So I'm going to load that image as a bump map that I have just exported, and then I'm just going to increase the texture value slightly. And as soon as I'm just increasing this slider, you can see that we are getting some kind of texture here, a leather style texture that we were looking for. And you can adjust its height depending upon your likeness, and as you see fit. So I'm just maybe slightly less than 2%, maybe something about 1.8. let's say how that looks. So 1.8, 1.9, that looks fine. And maybe see how it looks here in these areas. Alright, that looks fine to me. And now it's time to adjust the lighting effect, actually the specular highlights, and you can increase it like that. And shininess of your texture, somewhat like that. And again you can choose the diffusion, just adjust it as you see fit. And then I'm just going to zoom out a bit, make sure it covers most of the area. You can see that we are getting this lighting effect from a corner. The other corners are slightly darker, and you can say it is kind of like a limitation of this procedure, that we do not get a uniform lighting texture. We can use, instead of a spotlight, we can use a point light, but I have tried to make it look better, but it does not look better, and actually it look worse if we use a point light. So a spotlight would work fine, or a directional light can also work fine, but you can say that it has its limitations. So let's just, instead of a spotlight, we apply a directional light and see how that looks. You can adjust the ambience of the light, increase the shininess depending on, decrease the specular, whatever see fit. Alright, so if you want to get a uniform look, you can use a directional light, but in my previous try I have used spotlight, so that's what I'm going to go with. Alright, now that we have these settings for the spotlight, I'm just going to make sure that it covers maximum area. Let's just zoom into 100%. And in my point of view, this texture is looking much better. I might increase the shininess slightly and increase the specular highlights as well, somewhat like that. And then just zoom out. You can also play with this texture value, make it bigger and smaller, but I have found it to be working fine between 1 and 2.4. so I'm just going to, let's just simply make it 2. Alright, and then you can also decrease its opacity if you see it to be too much. You can force decrease its opacity. And I'm currently happy with this, how it's looking. Just slight adjustment to the position, and making sure that other corners are not too much dark. Alright, that looks fine. And then I'm just simply going to press apply to apply that effect. Now we have our texture ready. Now you can see that it is kind of like slightly dull. Now if you want to make it slightly better, one thing that you can do is apply a curve adjustment or a brightness and contrast adjustment. So simply I just, let's say, just test it with brightness and contrast, and then to make it slightly contrasting and slightly bright as well, and again increase the contrast, and then zoom in to 100% to see how it looks. So this was the result without that filter, brightness and contrast, actually adjustment layer, and this is the result with that. So it totally depends upon you how you see it to be. The next thing that we can do here is to apply some kind of like spots areas, or kind of like random kind of areas where you can see that it has kind of stains in different areas. So for that I've just created a new pixel layer, and I'm then to use this brush option, paint brush, and in the brushes I'm just going to use this basic brushes. You can select any of those. So I'm just going to choose this maximum one, this soft brush, and in the hardness make sure that hardness is 0% and the opacity is 100%, and everything else is as you can see here. And then just I'm going to make sure that in the color I'm choosing white color, not the black color. And then I'm just going to apply that brush by increasing its size slightly, maybe apply somewhat here, maybe a brush stroke here, and then decrease its size to apply a few brush strokes here and there, like that. And then I'm just going to decrease its opacity, make it very low, somewhat like that. And if you want, you can apply a filter, blur filter, Gaussian filter, like that, and maybe slightly increase it somewhat like that here. Alright, so it is just going to give you slight, you can say that these spots or stained looks to your texture, like that. Let's just zoom it to 100%. So one thing that you might notice here is that it has some kind of like these spotted areas, hard areas in it, grainy specular areas, whitish areas. So if you do not want it in your texture, what you need to do is select that layer on which you have applied that lighting effect, go to the filter, choose blur, and choose Gaussian blur, and in the Gaussian blur make sure that you are applying very slight blur to it. Let's say 0.1% would work fine. So this is without 0.1%, and here we have this one as 0.1%. So if you want to get rid of that, that's how you can easily do it. Alright, so you can see that we have this kind of like a dark grayish or black style leather texture. Now if you want to color it, let me show you how you can do it. So in order to color that texture, I'm just going to select the top layer, and there are two ways you can do it. You can either use an adjustment layer called recolor, but I have found it to be not working in the way I wanted. Maybe you you like it, so I'm just going to show it. This is the first method. So recolor, and I'm just going to decrease its saturation and decrease the lightness. So you see, when I'm decreasing the lightness, everything is getting too dark. So if I need it to be, let's say, slightly bluish kind of like texture, like that, so everything is getting too dark if I decrease the lightness. If I increase the light, if I do not change the lightness, it is not, in my point of view, is not looking what I wanted. So if you want to try it, you can just simply test it. But the method that I like is just simply creating a new fill layer. So layer, new fill layer, and in that I'm just going to change the blend mode from normal to color, and then I'm going to change its color, this fill layers color in the top rear fill, and I'm just using HSL slider. You can use RGB sliders as well. So in this I'm just going to make it slightly brownish, let's say, like that. So now if I decrease the lightness, you can see that it is not making my texture dark. Instead it is just increasing or decreasing the value of that color that I want in my texture. So this is why I like this method a little bit better than the previous method. So I have this slightly brownish texture, and if we want I can make it in any other color, like as I see fit. So I think I'll like it better in this slightly brownish style texture, like that. So that was the dark or gray color, and this is the brown texture that we wanted. So guys, that's how you can easily create a leather texture inside Affinity Photo. Now if you have any questions regarding this video or any of my previous videos, you can ask me in the comments below. And by the way, I have a lot of freebies on this channel, so if you are new to this channel, make sure that you check those videos out, and you can download those freebies. They can help you a lot in your design process. And hopefully I'll see you in the next video, and thank you for watching.